The music started before anyone was truly ready, inside the Grand Sony Hotel in Miami, where crystal chandeliers reflected sunlight like scattered diamonds. Over 200 guests turned their heads toward the altar, expecting a traditional entrance. Everything had been prepared with precision ivory roses along the aisle, velvet ribbons on every chair, the gold-trimmed programs with a single name printed on them. Matt, no last name, no mention of a partner, just Matt's wedding. Then, it happened. From 5 different entrances, 5 men stepped out at once. Each of them wore the same navy blue tailored suit, crisp white shirt, and black shoes that shone under the lights. Their strides were slow, confident, and synchronized, as if rehearsed. But no one had rehearsed this. A hushed wave moved through the crowd. Guests blinked, turned, whispered, because it wasn't just the matching suits, it was the rings. Each man wore a silver engagement ring on his left hand. Each one carried himself as if he belonged exactly where he was standing. The officiant looked lost. The cameras for the live stream hesitated, unsure where to focus. Was this part of the show or a mistake? That's when Claire stepped forward, calm, graceful, the wedding planner, the older sister of the groom. She took the mic with a practiced smile, but her voice trembled ever so slightly. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "There's been a minor change in the program today. We won't be introducing the groom. Instead, he will step forward when he's ready." A breathless pause followed, but before anyone could react, a low chuckle echoed through the room. Not forced, not mocking, but sharp, intentional. The kind of laugh that cuts through elegance like a blade through silk. Jaden stepped out, not from the side, not from the altar, but from the middle of the crowd. He wore the same navy suit, the same polished shoes, but his face held no confusion, only clarity. His hand reached into his jacket. He pulled out a mic. Jaden said. "Perhaps I can help. After all, I wrote the script for this entire performance." And just like that, silence took over the ballroom. Not the polite kind, the kind that held its breath, the kind that meant everyone in that room, from the first row relatives to the farthest corner live stream operator, had no idea what they were about to witness. But they stayed, because something deeper than celebration was about to unfold. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was a reckoning. Stay with us, because on Heartstorie, we don't just tell stories, we unmask them. Subscribe now and don't miss part 2 of this unforgettable wedding. Jaden stood under the lights now, no longer a guest, no longer silent. He didn't rush, he didn't raise his voice, but every word seemed to ripple through the room like a dropped stone in still water. He turned slightly, facing the 5 men still standing at the altar. The crowd behind him had quieted, waiting for explanation, or confession, or both. "Every man you see up here," Jaden said slowly, "has one thing in common. Matt," he looked out at the audience. Each of them believed they were his one and only. Gasps escaped from several corners of the room. A few heads turned toward the hallway, searching for Matt, the man who had yet to appear. Jaden reached for the remote. A screen lowered from the ceiling. The first photo appeared. Chris, dark eyes, strong jawline, standing beside Matt in what looked like a cozy apartment. Matt had his arms around Chris's waist. Both were smiling, caught mid-laugh. Jaden's voice didn't flinch. Chris lived with Matt for a year. They were planning to move to New York. Then one day, Matt said he needed time to figure himself out. He left a note. Chris never saw him again. The screen changed. Tobias, sitting in a cafe, holding Matt's hand across the table. The timestamp was recent, just 11 months ago. Matt called Tobias his final love, said he wanted a quiet life, promised a future. Tobias thought the ring was a sign. Tobias didn't speak, but his jaw tightened, and his eyes were fixed on the floor. Next came Leon, a grainy photo from an old phone. taken on a beach at sunset. Matt standing behind Leon, arms looped loosely around his shoulders. Leon's smile was small, hesitant. His hand held Matt's, as if unsure whether to keep it or let go. He ghosted Leon, Jaden said. No warning, no fight, just vanished. Left a message unread for 3 years. The room seemed to contract. Jaden turned the page again. His own photo this time. A selfie, taken late at night. Both him and Matt sitting on the floor surrounded by books and laptops. I helped him rewrite his CV. That's how he got the job he has now. His voice softened. He said he didn't want to ruin our friendship. That's why he never asked me out. Then the final slide, a screen with a collection of screenshots, messages, voice notes, videos, 5 different timelines, 5 stories of affection, of promises, of almosts, all overlapping. This isn't a coincidence. This was deliberate, a pattern. Claire suddenly stepped forward, her face pale. She reached for Jaden's arm. That's enough. But Jaden didn't move. Instead, he pressed another button. A final screenshot appeared, a text conversation between Claire and Matt. Jaden read aloud. Matt, I know what you're doing. You're playing with people. If you don't stop, I'll say something. A wave of murmurs passed through the room. Claire froze. She knew, Jaden said. She knew about all of it. But she still helped organize this wedding because it wasn't just about love, it was about status, legacy, family image. Claire's voice cracked. You don't understand what he's been through. No, Jaden interrupted, quiet but sharp. You don't understand what we've been through. There was no applause, no outburst, just silence that carried weight. Silence that dared anyone to speak against the truth now laid bare. Matt still hadn't appeared, but somehow in his absence was beginning to say more than his presence ever could. Jaden turned, slowly, toward Leon. The ballroom had become unbearably still, as if the chandeliers, the flowers, even the air itself were bracing for what came next. Leon, Jaden said quietly, you're the only one who never got a ring. His words weren't cruel. They didn't need to be. The truth hung there, exposed, trembling in the open like a wound. Leon didn't speak. His eyes shifted downward, as if searching the floor for something solid to stand on. But there was nothing. Only polished marble and too many memories. Matt still hadn't stepped forward. Still hiding. Jaden continued. He left you with no explanation. Not even a goodbye. You waited. Didn't you? The silence said everything. Tobias exhaled a bitter laugh, his voice dry. He introduced me to his mother. She sat next to me at the engagement dinner. Told me I was the first one she truly approved of. Chris scoffed, shaking his head. He told me I made him believe in marriage again. Said I healed something in him. Jaden's gaze didn't waver. And me, I was the one who helped him build his life back after he lost his job. I rewrote every resume, practiced interviews with him. I thought maybe helping him was enough. None of them looked at each other. Each stood in his own corner of pain, isolated by timelines that never should have overlapped. Jaden lowered the mic, let the crowd absorb the echoes of the past 3 years. That's when Claire stepped up. She didn't walk like a wedding planner now. She walked like someone approaching the truth she could no longer avoid. Her voice was clear, without apology. No one here is the groom. The audience turned, stunned. Claire continued. This wedding isn't real. There is no marriage license, no legal paperwork, no officiant, because this ceremony wasn't meant to unite 2 people. She paused. Her eyes were tired. It was built to reveal one. There was no stage lighting dramatic enough for what had just been said. No camera angle wide enough to capture the weight of that admission. A wedding meant to unmask. Jaden looked up, meeting Claire's gaze. She nodded, just once, as if silently passing him the rest of the story. He took a deep breath. Everything today, from the seating chart to the live stream, from the 5 matching suits to the vague invitations, was constructed with one purpose: to put Matt's lies on display. He turned back to the screen. We didn't come here to ruin his life. We came to reclaim our own. Leon finally looked up. He scanned the room slowly. Faces he didn't know, strangers in suits, a sister who stayed silent, a man he once trusted, now hiding behind curtains. Then he looked at the ring finger on his own hand, bare. And maybe that was the only truth he ever needed. The ballroom dimmed without warning. A low, mechanical sound filled the silence as a hidden projector hummed to life. Every head turned toward the screen, now descending above the altar. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the video began to play. At first, it was shaky. A handheld camera, dim lighting, laughter in the background. Then focus. Matt. He was sitting on a rooftop terrace, drink in hand, a crown of silver balloons behind him, spelling out "Last Night of Freedom." Around him, a circle of men, friends, co-workers, or strangers. No one could tell. Passed around at shots, cheered, joked, but the audio was clear. "I mean," Matt said, grinning, "it's just a performance, right? Big wedding, big venue, good PR. Afterwards, I'll still be me." Someone off camera asked, "So you're actually going through with it?" Matt lifted his glass. "Of course, it's perfect. I get attention. The family looks good. And he, whoever shows up, gets the fantasy for one day." The crowd in the video erupted in laughter. In the ballroom, there was only silence. Jaden stood still beside the screen, hands clasped. Leon looked like he couldn't breathe. Tobias's eyes were fixed, unblinking. Chris crossed his arms, but his posture was cracking. Even the guests who had arrived in glittering gowns and tuxedos now shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, like participants in a farce they never consented to join. Someone from the back rose and walked out, then another. The ripple had begun. Journalists at the edge of the room raised cameras again, this time not for a celebration, but for a scandal. Microphones flicked on. The live stream count doubled. The world was watching something unravel in real time. Claire stepped back, as if she needed distance from what she had helped build. And yet, she didn't run. Not until a woman, sharply dressed, early 50s, stood up from the third row and turned toward her. "Why did you let this happen?" the woman asked. Claire didn't answer right away. Then she looked down at her own hands, like they might still be holding the past. "I did it," she whispered, "because I knew what it felt like." She looked up. Years ago, when Matt was 20, he proposed to me. Gasps burst across the room. A few people even stood. "I said yes," Claire continued. "And that night after the party, he disappeared. No warning, no goodbye. I woke up alone, just a ring on the counter, and a voicemail saying he didn't believe in love." It was the first time her voice cracked. "So when he came to me with this wedding," she said, "I thought maybe he had changed. Maybe this was him trying to be better. But deep down I knew," she added. "I knew exactly who he still was." More guests left. Others stayed, not out of support, but shock, morbid fascination, the kind that made them forget the hors d'oeuvres and the champagne. Finally, Matt appeared. He didn't sneak out. He didn't burst onto the stage. He simply walked through the curtain from the back hall, hands in his pockets, face unreadable, no smile, no apology. He looked at the 5 men, the ones he once called home, memory, fantasy, and he said quietly, "I didn't think you'd all team up." Jaden didn't flinch. He stared back, steady. "You didn't think we'd compare notes," he said. "You counted on our silence." Matt glanced at the screen still glowing behind them, the frozen image of himself, laughing in arrogance. He said nothing more, because there was nothing left to say. Leon stepped forward. He didn't look at Matt. Not at first. He looked at the floor where so many hopes had fallen in silence. He looked at the roses, still fresh, still white, still too pure for what this moment had become. Then he raised the mic. His voice was calm, but it carried, not through volume, through weight. "You want to know why we stood together?" he asked. "Why 5 people who barely knew each other walked into this wedding, wearing the same suit, holding the same lie?" He turned now and faced the man who once held his heart without care. "Because we don't love you anymore." A murmur passed through the crowd. Leon's voice didn't break, not even when his fingers reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, silver, cold, a ring. One Matt had never given him. "I found this," Leon said, "in your drawer, the week before you disappeared. I thought maybe you'd lost the courage to give it. I thought maybe you weren't ready. So I waited." He held it up. The lights made it shimmer, a symbol of something that never began. "Now I know," he said. "It was never mine to wait for." And with that, he opened his hand and let it fall. The ring hit the marble once, a sharp sound, clean and final, before it rolled out of view. Tobias stepped up next. No words, just a movement, slow, precise, as he removed the ring from his finger and placed it on the edge of the table near the altar. Chris followed, then Jaden. Each man came forward, took off what once symbolized hope, and laid it down like a confession. When Jaden reached the table, he looked at Matt one last time. "Today," he said, "no one gets married, but 5 of us finally walk away." The audience didn't clap. They didn't need to. The silence itself was standing. Claire returned to the stage, now holding a small folder in her hands. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply addressed the guests who still remained. "In honor of what happened today, and what so many have lived through quietly, we are founding a new support organization." She opened the folder. "It's called the 5th Ring." Her voice was steady. "It will be co-led by the 5 men you saw today, and it will be dedicated to helping those in the LGBTQ+ community who've been emotionally manipulated, gaslighted, or broken by toxic relationships, because love should never be used as currency." Matt remained where he was, expression unreadable, his wedding suit perfect, his name on the programs, his story rewritten without his permission, or maybe rewritten exactly as it should be. Leon, Tobias, Chris, Jaden, and Claire stood side by side now, not as victims, not as lost loves, as survivors. The lights dimmed, the guests began to leave. Slower now, some stopped to whisper thank you. Others stayed back, quietly moved. No bouquet was thrown, no first dance played, but something far greater had just taken place. The sound of freedom never needed music. Have you ever mistaken manipulation for love? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Heartstorie, where every untold truth deserves a voice.